There's a specific kind of person in every room. They're not the loudest, usually they're the quietest. They walk in, and within seconds they already know. Who's tense? Who's pretending? Who just had a fight in the car before they came inside? They catch the flicker in someone's smile a half second before it drops. They hear the tiny change in a voice, and know the "I'm fine" is a lie. You know this person. You've watched them go quiet in a crowd, watching everyone else like they're reading a language nobody taught them. Or maybe, and be honest, maybe this person is you. Maybe you've spent your whole life feeling everything a little too loudly, noticing what others miss, and being told over and over that something about you is too much. If that's you, stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to understand something about yourself that the world has been getting wrong on purpose. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. It starts early, before you had words for it. You felt the mood of a house the moment you walked into it. You knew when the adults were about to fight before a single glass was raised. You cried at things other kids didn't even notice. And somewhere along the way, someone gave it a name. You're too sensitive. You overthink everything. You're reading into things. 4 words that follow perceptive people for the rest of their lives. You're too much. So you learned to shrink the thing that made you notice, to second-guess the signal in your gut, to smile and say nothing, when every nerve in your body was screaming that something was wrong. And here's the cruel part. You were usually right. The tension you sensed was real. The lie you caught was a lie. But you'd been trained so well to doubt yourself. That being right just made you feel crazier. Think about how strange that is. Being correct became a source of shame. You'd sense the affair before anyone said a word. You'd know a friendship was ending months before it ended. And every time reality proved you right, instead of trusting yourself more, you trusted yourself less, because being the only one who saw it coming just made you the odd one out again. That's how the training works. It doesn't stop you from noticing. It just teaches you to notice and then immediately talk yourself out of it. To feel the truth and swallow it. To become an expert at your own life who's forbidden from acting on what they know. This is the first trap. And almost nobody escapes it on their own. Let me tell you what's actually happening, because it isn't a flaw, it's wiring. Psychologists have a name for it: high sensory processing sensitivity. Roughly 1 in 5 people have a nervous system tuned to a higher resolution. You don't take in the world in broad strokes. You take it in at full detail. Every micro expression, every shift in tone, everything left unsaid in a room. Think of it like a radar that never turns off. Everyone else is running on a low-detail map. You're running on the high-definition one. You see the cracks in the wall, the strain behind the eyes, the exact second someone stops listening. But here's what nobody tells you. A radar that never sleeps is exhausting. You're processing 10 times the information everyone around you is processing. And then you're expected to act like you feel nothing. Picture it in an ordinary moment. You're at dinner with 4 people. The others are having one conversation. You're having 6. You're tracking the words being said and the words being avoided. You're clocking that the couple across from you hasn't made eye contact all night. You're noticing the waiter's hands shake, the friend who laughs a beat too late, the exact moment the mood in the room tips from warm to forced. Nobody else is doing this. They think you're just having dinner. And when you go home wrung out and can't explain why, they tell you that you make everything harder than it needs to be. You're not making it harder. You're just the only one in the room who's fully awake. And being the only awake person in a room of sleepwalkers is one of the loneliest feelings there is. No wonder you're tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. You've been doing a second full-time job your whole life, feeling the room, and nobody ever told you it counted as work. By now, if you're this kind of person, you've built your whole identity around 3 quiet beliefs. And all 3 are lies. The first lie: I'm too sensitive. You've been told this. So many times you say it about yourself now, almost as an apology. But sensitivity isn't weakness, it's bandwidth. You're not too sensitive, you're high resolution in a low resolution world. And that world would rather you dim yourself than admit it's not paying attention. The second lie: I overthink everything. No, you overnotice. There's a difference. Overthinking is spinning on a thought with no new information. What you're doing is processing real signals other people are blind to. You're not imagining the tension. You're the only one honest enough to feel it. The third lie is the heaviest. Something is wrong with me, because you feel out of step. Because connection costs you more than it seems to cost anyone else. Because you go home from a party and need 3 days to recover, while everyone else is already asking where you're going next. Hold on to these 3. Because in a minute, I'm going to turn each one of them into a weapon. But first, the cost. Because there's always a cost, and yours has a specific shape. When you notice everything, you start managing everything. You feel the discomfort in the room, so you rush to fix it. You sense someone pulling away, so you become whatever you think will bring them back. You become fluent in other people, fluent in their moods, their needs, the exact thing to say to make them okay. You read the room so well that you disappear into it. And that's the trap inside the trap. The more you tune into everyone else, the more you lose the signal on yourself. Ask a perceptive person what they want, what they feel, and watch the pause. They can tell you what everyone else in their life feels. Their own inner world, static. You spend so long being a mirror for other people that you forget you were ever supposed to have a face, and people love you for it. That's the hook. You're the one everyone opens up to. The one who always knows what to say. The friend who remembers the thing they mentioned once, months ago, and asks about it. You give people the feeling of being deeply understood, and they come back to you again and again to feel it. But notice the shape of that. They come to you to be understood. How many of them come to understand you? For most perceptive people, that number is close to zero. You've built relationships where your entire value is how well you see the other person. And a relationship where you're only allowed to be the seer, never the seen, isn't intimacy. It's service. This is the loneliness nobody warns you about. Not being alone, being surrounded, being needed even, and being the only one who sees while nobody sees you. And it compounds, because the better you get at reading people, the more you attract the ones who want to be read and taken care of, and the fewer you attract who can hold their own weight. Perceptive people don't end up drained by accident. They end up drained because they've been quietly selected by everyone who needed a mirror, and avoided by everyone who was afraid of one. Now here's where it gets darker, and more interesting. Have you noticed that people react strangely to you? That some are drawn to you almost instantly. They'll tell you things they've never told anyone, and others get uncomfortable, defensive, cold, for reasons neither of you can name. It's the same reason for both. They can feel that you see them. Most people move through the world wearing a mask, and they rely on everyone else politely pretending the mask is the real face. Then you walk in, and on some animal level they sense that your eyes are going straight past the mask. For the honest ones, that's a relief. Finally, someone who sees. For the ones with something to hide, it's a threat. You are the person in the room they cannot fool, and people do not forgive you for that. So they do what humans have always done to the one who sees too much. They call you paranoid, dramatic, too intense. They gaslight the very perception. That's telling the truth. Because your clarity is inconvenient, and they always aim at the same target. Not your behavior, your perception itself. You're imagining it. You're reading into things. You're being paranoid. They can't argue with what you saw, so they attack your right to have seen it. Do that to a person enough times, starting young enough, and you build someone who distrusts their own eyes. Someone easy to manage. That's not an accident. A perceptive person who trusts themselves is very hard to control. A perceptive person who's been taught to doubt every signal is the easiest person in the world to manipulate, because you can talk them out of what's right in front of them. Sit with that for a second, because it's the whole game. The most perceptive people often end up the most manipulated, not despite their perception, because of it. Their radar works perfectly. They've just been trained to override it the moment someone acts offended. Understand this and half your life suddenly makes sense. Every time you knew something was off, and let someone convince you that you were the problem. That wasn't you being difficult. That was your gift being switched off by someone who benefited from the dark. So this is the fork in the road, and every perceptive person ends up standing at it, whether they realize it or not. Down one path is the person who never reclaims their radar. They keep apologizing for it. They keep dimming it, doubting it, drowning it, in noise, in overwork, in a glass of wine every night just to make the signal quiet enough to sleep. They spend their whole life as the most perceptive person in every room and the least powerful. Fluent in everyone, sovereign over no one. Exhausted, unseen, and quietly certain that something is wrong with them. Down the other path is something the world doesn't want you to become. Someone who keeps the perception, but takes back the power. Same eyes, same radar. One crucial difference. They stopped needing your approval to trust what they see. And that person, the one who notices everything and has stopped flinching about it, is the most quietly dangerous person in any room. Not cruel, Dangerous in the way that calm, clear-eyed people are dangerous to anyone running a con. Let me show you how they crossed over, because you can too. The first thing they did was the hardest. They stopped explaining themselves. The perceptive person has one addiction above all others: justifying their perception. I don't want to overreact, but maybe it's just me. But I could be wrong. But I feel like every one of those little prefaces is you handing someone else the authority to decide whether your own experience is valid. You've done it so long you don't hear yourself do it. Watch what happens when you stop, when you let yourself notice something, and don't rush to soften it, excuse it, or shrink it. You feel a spike of guilt, like you've done something wrong. That guilt is the leash. That's the exact feeling they installed in you. So you dim yourself without anyone having to tell you to. The moment you feel that guilt and don't obey it, that's the moment the leash starts to come off. You don't have to announce anything. You don't have to confront anyone. You just have to stop betraying your own eyes to keep other people comfortable. Try it small first. Someone asks your opinion, and you feel the truth rise up, and right behind it the reflex to soften it into mush. Just don't soften it. Say the clean version. Notice the world doesn't end. Notice that the people worth keeping actually respect you more, and the people who needed you fuzzy start to reveal themselves. Because that's the second thing you'll learn. When you stop pre-apologizing for your perception, some people in your life will get angry. They'll call the new you cold or difficult or changed. Listen closely to who complains. It's almost never the people who love you. It's the people who relied on you doubting yourself. Their discomfort isn't proof you're doing something wrong. It's proof you're doing something right. That quiet refusal is where your power was hiding the whole time. Here's what they don't teach you about perception. Its real power isn't in reacting. It's in not reacting. When you notice everything, your instinct is to respond to everything. Someone's tone shifts, and you're already adjusting, fixing, managing. But the perceptive person who's crossed over learns to do something almost unnatural. They notice and they stay still. They see the manipulation and don't take the bait. They feel the guilt trip land and let it slide off. They watch someone reveal exactly who they are, and instead of reacting, they simply file it away. There is nothing more unsettling to a manipulator than a person who sees the move coming and doesn't flinch. The whole game depends on getting a reaction out of you. Your calm is a wall they cannot climb. Think about the last time someone tried to guilt you into something. The heavy sigh, the wounded look, the story designed to make you feel responsible for their feelings. Before, you'd feel it land like a hook in your chest, and you'd scramble to fix it. But the perceptive person who's crossed over feels the exact same hook and just watches it. There it is, the guilt move. Named, seen, and left hanging in the air with no reaction to feed on. That's the cold advantage. Not becoming heartless, becoming unhookable. You keep every ounce of your empathy for the people who've earned it, and you stop bleeding it into every hand that reaches for it. If empaths who stop performing become powerful, this is why. You didn't lose your perception. You stopped leaking it. You kept the radar and turned off the alarm that used to make you jump. And people feel that shift immediately. The ones who used you get nervous. The ones worth keeping lean in. You become harder to fool, harder to manipulate, harder to drain, because you finally see the whole board. And you no longer have to touch every piece. Now for the piece that changes everything. You've spent your whole life aiming your perception outward. It's time to turn the lens around. You already have a superpower for reading people. 0.1% of it at yourself. The next time you feel that familiar exhaustion after being around someone, don't explain it away. Ask the question you'd never dare ask out loud. What did I actually notice about them that I've been pretending not to see? Because you already know. You always knew. The friend who only calls when they need something. The relationship that leaves you smaller every time. The room you keep walking back into even though your body tenses at the door. Your radar has been sending you the report for years. You've just been trained to mark it, return to sender. Start reading yourself the way you read everyone else. Notice your own tension, your own withdrawal. The moments you go quiet and perform fine. That static where your feelings should be starts to clear the second you aim the lens inward. Here's a practice you can start tonight. Before you fall asleep, ask yourself one question. When did my body tighten today, and who was in the room when it did? Don't analyze it. Don't justify it. Just log it, the way your radar logs everyone else. Do that for 2 weeks and a pattern will appear that you've been refusing to see for years. Your own life. finally read by the one person qualified to read it. And notice the resistance you feel to even doing this. That resistance is the whole prison. You'll happily spend 2 hours worrying about whether a friend is upset with you, and feel selfish spending 2 minutes asking whether that friend is good for you. That imbalance isn't kindness. It's the training, kindness that only ever points outward and never protects the person feeling. It isn't kindness at all. It's a cage with a nice name. This is the whole reversal in one sentence. Stop being fluent in everyone but yourself. And if this is landing, if you've felt seen even once in the last few minutes, subscribe and do one thing for me. Leave a comment with the one thing your gut has been trying to tell you that you keep ignoring. Say it out loud, even just to a stranger. That's where it starts. Picture the same room from the beginning, the one where you used to walk in, and immediately start managing everyone's comfort. Walk in as the person you're becoming. You still notice everything. The tension, the pretending, the flicker behind the smiles. Nothing gets past you. It never did. But something's different now. You're not scanning the room to figure out how to make yourself acceptable. You're just seeing clearly, calmly, taking it all in and keeping your feet. You feel someone's mood pull at you, and you notice the pull without getting yanked. You catch the lie and don't need to expose it. You sense who's safe and who isn't, and you spend your energy accordingly. Without guilt, without a speech, you've stopped being the mirror. You have a face again. And the wild thing is, the people worth having move closer, not further. Because there is nothing more magnetic than a person who sees you completely and isn't afraid of what they see. The thing you were told to be ashamed of your whole life turns out to be the exact thing that makes you unforgettable. So let's go back to those 3 lies, and let's finish them. You were never too sensitive. You were high resolution in a world that runs on low. That's not a defect, that's range. You never just overthought. You overnoticed. In a room full of people who chose not to look, your radar was working. Everyone else's was off, and nothing was ever wrong with you. You were a person with a rare and inconvenient gift handed to a world that would rather you dim it than deal with what you can see. The world didn't call your perception a flaw because it was weak. It called it a flaw because it was powerful and undimmed. It was hard to control. So stop dimming. Keep the radar. Turn off the alarm. Aim the lens at your own life for once, and walk through the world as what you actually are. Not the too much one, not the broken one, but the one who sees. They were never afraid you'd notice too little. They were always afraid of what would happen the day you stopped apologizing for noticing everything. That day can be today. I'm Krimpathy. Keep seeing.